A harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. There's a big difference between someone who's naive and is a good person. They're naive, they're a good person, because they can't not be. They're like a domesticated house cat. They don't even have the capacity to be bad, so there's no morality in that. The morality comes when you're a monster and you can control it. If you're not capable of cruelty, you're absolutely a victim to anyone who is. Every one of us can be either of three things. We might not have teeth and therefore not bite. We might have teeth but choose not to bite. Or we might have teeth and bite. The middle option is the most desirable. We are strong, and yet we use our strength with moderation. We're able to defend ourselves. We're able to defend others. This is the hero archetype. Superman, Batman. Option 3 is the anti-hero archetype. We are strong, but not necessarily use our strength for good. We take advantage of others. We're a bully. And option number 1, that's the pushover archetype. We don't take advantage of others, but others might take advantage of us. If an aggressor comes along, our only defense is to hope and pray he takes pity on us. So, in the West, which one of the three are we? Oh, it's easy to say which one we used to be. In the 19th century, we did have teeth, and we did bite plenty. European countries had colonies in every corner of the world. Scenes like these were a regular occurrence. Then Old Chief Black Kettle, the principal leader of the Cheyenne, tied a white flag to a lodge pole, and above that he tied an American flag that had been given him by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. He gathered his family around himself, and he held the pole high, again in an effort to show the American soldiers that his was not a hostile camp. He kept calling out to his people not to be frightened. Robert Ben's brother George recalled that the camp was under protection and there was no danger. Then, suddenly, the troops opened fire on this mass of men, women, and children, and all began to scatter and run. The massacre was on. Similar scenes happened in Russian Circassia, British Australia, German Namibia, Belgian Congo. Anywhere the European went, mayhem and enslavement followed. This has been changing in the recent decades. European colonies have been liberated. Thankfully, the worst atrocities ceased. We stopped being the anti-hero. We stopped biting, at least relatively speaking. So, which one of the other two options did we become? There was a genuine change in attitudes for the better. There's no denying that. Some of our worst prejudices went away. Yet, at the same time, isn't it also somewhat suspicious that this change came just around the time when European countries went bankrupt after the 2 world wars? Oftentimes, they did try and fight back, but failed, as was the case with the Suez Canal in 1956. So, which one is it? Did we become better? Or did we become weaker, and we're only telling ourselves that we're better for comfort? How do you judge such a thing? Well, one way to start would be to ask ourselves, can we defend ourselves? A good, strong country should be able to defend itself. If you look at the map, European countries are still independent. Nobody has conquered us. However, that's in big part thanks to our technological advances. As Alexander Solzhenitsyn observed during his stay in the US, After World War II, the West yielded to the satanic temptation of the nuclear umbrella. It was equivalent to saying, let's cast off worries, let's free the younger generation from their duties and obligations, let's make no effort to defend ourselves. If danger should threaten us, we shall be protected by the nuclear bomb. If not, then let the world go to hell. And if you look at the recent polling, the numbers do bear this out. Less than half young people are willing to fight to defend their country. So, if not thanks to our resolve, then at least thanks to our technology, we've managed not to get conquered, at least not militarily. But haven't we been conquered in other ways? Say, demographically. Native Europeans will soon be a minority in their ancestral homelands. Of course, we like to tell ourselves that it's due to our increased tolerance. Or is it rather because we can't be asked to bring up the next generations ourselves and have to rely on importing them from other cultures? Whether or not it's prudent to allow ourselves to drift into a minority status, historically minorities have often faced an uphill battle. It doesn't feel like it's up to Europeans to decide anymore. In the UK, for instance, successive governments have promised to reduce the immigration numbers and then consistently broke this promise. And modern Europeans seem helpless to do anything about it. All they can do is cross their fingers and hope that the next government they elect doesn't break that promise again. And this, of course, also raises the question, if it's not up to Europeans to decide, then who is it? You do get the sense that Western governments have been compromised and often no longer act in the best interest of their own people. In the US, for instance, it's highly likely that compromising material exists against the sitting president, material that potentially can be used for blackmail by a foreign entity. It's been this way for 30 plus years now. It's a breach of security unlikely to have happened under George Washington, you'd think. But again, modern Westerners seem helpless. Oftentimes, they can't even protect their youngest from abuse that, in many British towns, for instance, has been going on for decades. A good, strong person should be able to protect the weak. And according to another harsh indictment from Solzhenitsyn, only the loss of that higher intuition could have allowed the West to accept calmly, after World War I, the protected agony of Russia as she was being torn apart by a band of cannibals, or to accept, after World War II, the similar dismemberment of Eastern Europe. Only once in this century did the West gather its strength for the battle against Hitler. 40 years later, we are still often guilty of that same inaction. Some might counter that it's not our job to meddle in the internal affairs of others, and perhaps rightly so. But if it's not our job, well then, that just leads to the question, is there even such a thing as a good, strong country? What would it look like? Has one ever existed? Is the quest for domination not the best case scenario we can hope for? After forced conversions or outright physical elimination of the enemy? Countries aren't people, after all. Things like empathy or loyalty don't really apply. As a British Prime Minister once said, nations have no lasting friends, no lasting enemies, only lasting interests. The sad reality is that cold hard logic governs foreign relations rather than human emotions. Or, as one Russian Tsar put even more bluntly, the one who does the beating is better, and the one who gets beaten and tied up is worse. This was said just at the start of a great Russian territorial expansion, which in turn came on the back of a Mongol rule they were under for the 2 preceding centuries. The Spanish began their conquest of the Americas in 1492, exactly the same year they freed themselves from Arab rule that lasted 7 centuries. Before Arabs started their conquests, they in turn have been under Roman occupation for many centuries. And this all follows cold hard logic. If you're stronger, then it's in your interest to conquer your weaker neighbour. Otherwise, you risk them conquering you one day. Unfortunately, it seems impossible to convince a bully to refrain from bullying. Not with words. As the old saying goes, if you want peace, prepare for war. If you're not capable of cruelty, you really are a victim to anyone who is, it seems. Joseph D. Unwin goes even one step further. According to his observations, it's not even possible for any cultural progress to occur without prior conquest. In human records, there is no trace of any display of productive energy which has not been preceded by a display of expansive energy. Although the 2 kinds of energy must be carefully distinguished, in the past they have been, as it were, united in the sense that one has developed out of the other. As Sir James Fraser has said, intellectual progress, which reveals itself in the growth of art and science, cannot be dissociated from industrial and economic progress, and that in its turn receives an immense impetus from conquest and empire. It is no mere accident that the most vehement outbursts of activity of the human mind have followed close upon the heels of victory. And, indeed, if we think of the most cultured European societies, the Germans, the British, the French, you can't help but notice that the most cultured societies were also responsible for the worst colonial expansions. And once these stopped, our cities all of a sudden started looking much less impressive. Okay, so what do you think? Are we good? Are we weak? Are there any historical examples of a good, strong country that you can think of? One that defended itself but didn't infringe on others? Please let me know what you think, and take care.